So, how many artists do I have in here? I suspect I have a lot. Oh yeah, I knew it. I knew it. Okay. Are there any painters? Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Excellent. So, I kind of like. I want this to be more of a dialogue than me just talking at you. But I think what I want to do is that I'm going to talk a little bit about the things that when I go to artist talks, the things that like I'm interested in hearing about. And so I'm going to cover that. And if I miss anything for you guys, you know, I'm not going to talk that long. But I'm a teacher, so I might. Who knows? Yeah. So anyway, first I want to thank Abby and Gundy for hosting this evening and actually creating this beautiful space that supports and showcases local artists, local and emerging artists. And when I first moved here in 2006, like I was coming from Chicago, I was feeling I was in a I was feeling like I was in a cultural desert coming out here, you know, without a lot of contemporary, you know, galleries to go to because I was, you know, used to the MCA and, you know, and Denver's far away. So anyway, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I appreciate being here. So anyway, I do have little notes. I wear my glasses so I can read my notes. Okay, so so the first thing that I'm kind of interested in when I go to an artist talk is like, what is the artist process? You know, what do they do? How do they get started? You know, I think, and for the people that are not artists, I think it is probably somewhat confusing, especially if you're like viewing abstract artwork probably for the first or second time or something like that. So, so my artwork is it is based on landscapes and it's based on my personal experiences around here in Colorado, and everything is like different places that I went. But I certainly don't start with taking a picture, or I don't even start a painting thinking, oh, I'm painting da 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 da. You know, it's all kind of been seeping in there for a long time. And so I do paintings, and then I look at them later and I see what they evoke for me, like what place they evoke for me. So yeah, anyway, I usually start with a lot of spontaneous painting, gestural, and mark making. And and spray paint. My very bottom layers are those, and I think that you can see them in just about every painting that I have. You can see, I always try to leave like a little bit of my original marks in there. I think it creates like a sense of depth, and I like that. So I do that. Yeah, I do the marks. Then I start with some color studies, which is something that probably all artists do. I don't know. I figure out what my color palette is. I then move to like value studies, and I figure out. I think I do a bunch of small little value studies, figuring out how I want to break up the space and what is interesting to me. And then from there, like I don't know what happens after that. Honestly, like it just paints. So, so that's one thing that I'm interested in about artists. And what do I notice that other people don't notice? And I thought this was an interesting question because I really obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I really hone in on like rock formations and mountains and crevices and cracks and smaller details like in cliffs and stuff. And I don't know if other people see that or not, but like I used to be a rock climber too, and so that's probably part of my training was like looking at that. So and I also try to I'm also trying to take something that, so when I'm in the wilderness, I'm trying to take something that I feel and something that I sense, and I'm trying to make that into a painting. And that's like really kind of, I mean, it's abstract to me, like how do you do that? and that's will be one of my questions for you guys in a minute. How do you translate something that you feel into like, artwork, whether it's painting or sculpture or whatever. And so, yeah, so those are feelings. And so some of the feelings that I get are a sense of vastness, a sense of energy, a sense of permanence and a sense of impermanence, the weather, and all those things I'm trying to like incorporate into some of these pieces. And I think I talked about really what inspires me, right? So I'm inspired by the inaccessibility, I think, to some landscapes. And there's, I think it's this painting right here. A long, long time ago, I hiked in with my husband. I hiked into Rocky Mountain National Park, and we went to climb Shark's Tooth Mountain, which is like, really, it's only a peak that rock climbers know about, and mountaineers, and maybe some obscure hikers. But there's an area, like you are going through the woods, and you come out, and then before you get to the mountain, you camp out there, right? So before you get to the mountain, there's like this big boulder field and glacier area, and they call it the gash. And that painting, like that's what that painting really signifies for me. And so a very specific place when I see that. So I don't know. So, oh yeah, and I also like floaty things. So I'm inspired by floaty things. I'm also a teacher, so I work with beginning art students too, all the time. And I try to get them to understand and appreciate that. It's kind of hard to really put your thumb on it, but I'm glad you asked that, because this little video I have over here, that's the first piece I think I made for this exhibition. And I have two, the image on the right now is going up the Black Canyon of the Gunnison River, right? And so I was going up the Black Canyon. I'm on the boat ride. It was cool. I was with my kids, going up there, filming that. And because I had this vague idea in my head, it wasn't quite figured out yet. And I went up there, and then the boat, like it turns around, right? And then goes back. So when this happens on this video, the Black Canyon goes to the left side, and the Chicago River goes on the right side. So then later, I don't know, a year later, I was doing a workshop at the Art Institute of Chicago, and I saw the Chicago River, and I was like, oh, and then I took a boat ride up there, and I filmed that. And so, because when I'm on the boat, like, I'm like, oh my God, this is so much like Colorado, except it's all man-made and structure as opposed to nature. So like that for me is like, I think it's a leaping off point, and it's a real literal reference. I see landscapes and I see rocks because I have some really high contrast with value with like my dark areas and my light areas. So, but yeah, I start with spray paint because it like just gets that white away of the canvas, and then I start building on top of it. I really like sort of that grunge surface, and so most of my paintings start with that as a background, and that is super fun to do because you just paint and then you draw on top of it, and then you paint, and you just keep doing that. And then I do next, this painting anyway, like I go on top of it. I put in like real dark areas to, for my value studies that I talked about. Put in those real dark areas, and then I try to work with different values of colors, so it's just not all one color of dark. And then I scribble on it some more. Sometimes I use charcoal. Yeah, and then I have to really start thinking about it. I mean, that's what it goes from a very intuitive process to something then like now I'm thinking, oh, it's a painting now, right? So I need to like kind of make it work somehow. And yeah, and then in this particular one, I did collage on top. Sometimes I do collage underneath a little bit, but usually the collage comes in towards the end. But this summer, it's all been about Chapel Roan, just saying. Chapel Roan, yeah. But it depends, like, depends on my mood. Like, so, like, I'm at school too, like, when I'm doing some of this, I have, space there to paint a little bit. And, you know, if the kids are making me edgy, I put on classical, and just sort of like chill out, or jazz, or some of these little ones, those were like last summer, and those were mostly done to jazz. Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, and I have one more question for you guys. What can you see that implies wildness in these paintings? And anybody, just like my brush strokes. Okay. Anybody else? And texture? Okay. Does that make you, Ramona, does that make you think about rocks or? All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Colors. I know, those blue cliffs. Okay. That's all I got, you guys. Thank you so much.